Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, Wisdom Talks. Today's podcast is all about revealing your sense of purpose and possibility. And we're going to cover that negativity or imposter syndrome, which we all suffer at one time or another. I certainly have on many occasions, and question any negative feedback I get and just fester and focus on that and think, am I actually good enough for this job? But what I've done today is brought you a colleague of mine, Libby, an expert in this area, to talk about this imposter syndrome and also to give you some ideas of how to overcome that. But before we start that, Libby, I think it's a good idea for you to say a little bit about yourself and really how you got into this.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Thank you for having me, first of all. And how did it all start? I think it was from a young age, just quite been an empathic child, and then that just carried on itself through teen years. And then I just wanted to sort of get into the area of research, actually, initially. And through that, I discovered actually what I really like is that communication with the other person, fostering that empathic relationship and really knowing that you're doing something meaningful for them. And that's what led me to sort of get my degree in counselling. And actually, because I think it does apply to the topic, imposter syndrome stopped me a couple of times to start my career, and namely, it was quite after my undergrad. I thought, oh no, I can't do this.
You still have doubts?
Yeah. I absolutely passed. I had my graduation, and I was like, no, I can't apply for a master's. Surely,
you've graduated, you're still questioning whether this is you good enough for it.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think touching on something you said before, it's that one comment. Yeah. Over thousands of comments that you've had are proof. I mean, not to toot my own horn or anything of sorts, but I'd had some quite good achievements. I've been on papers for achieving certain things throughout school. I managed to get my degree, and still there's something internally that was like, you're not good enough for this.
Yeah.
There's no point you even applying because you don't know anything. And that was it for quite a while, about 3 years actually, that it took me to
you showed it for 3 years.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not doing this. I'll work somewhere else. I did still manage to work in mental health. I worked in psychiatric hospitals, prisons, children's care homes, and it was always as a support care role, but it was within me. It's just that innate need to help others. And after a while I was like, do you know what have I actually got to lose? If it's a no, then that's confirmed. And if it isn't, then I might be able to help other people out there.
Yeah.
And I think actually experiencing it and going through it gives you a bit of an edge because you're able to understand and connect with someone else. And I think that's one of the most important things in this sort of field and in this career. So, yeah, that's sort of how I ended up here, how, I navigated a little bit of the imposter syndrome. And to be honest, it still does hit now and again.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of reshaping that thought.
I know that you can share that on the advice line as well, can't you? Because you'll have many people that I know in my life, there are many people that feel like that and they don't, pursue avenues they should do because they don't feel they're good enough, or somebody's made them not feel good enough. How can we get through that? How can, like, for me, give you that example, doing a webinar of 18,000 people on it, and then I get this one negative comment, and I zoom in on it, and that will wreck my day. Yeah. So how do I get over that? How do people listening get over that? Because I know that it affects so many people.
Yeah. Oh, indeed, it does.
How did you get over it?
Yeah, and just to touch on what you were saying, just to piggyback on it.
Get on.
It does. It impacts everyone. It doesn't discriminate, but it is something that doesn't always remain. It can be dormant, and it can come here and there in specific situations. But how did I get over it? It was basically, as I said before, it's a matter of actually putting it down. So I am a believer that if you write it down and you can see it, I'm a bit of a visual person. So when I can see it, it's out of my head. Because a lot of the times, those thoughts are indeed just that, a thought. There's no actual evidence to support that.
Yeah.
So one way to sort of go around it or to manage it, to navigate imposter syndrome, is to really name it, to be like, okay, I do feel like I don't belong, but is that true?
Right.
Does that actually reflect my abilities, my doubts?
Yeah.
Is it connected to my actual skills?
Yeah.
And indeed, when you start writing it down and question it, you come to a realization that, oh, there is no actual fundamental evidence to support that thought. It is sort of based in my head. And I know it's easier said than done because it really is about sort of self-talk, but that's exactly what it is. It's the narrative that you choose to have internally. And a lot of the times we tell each other, oh, you know, the words you said count or matter. But the ones that you have internally, I think, matter the most because they shape everything. That how you see yourself, how you see others around you. And
It can be damaging, can't
exactly. And it can lead to so many other sort of issues. So momentarily, the imposter syndrome can be there or, you know, self-doubt or that negativity. But the more we feed it, the more we keep with it, it can lead to other mental well-being sort of disalignments per se. And it's important to just seek that understanding of ourselves, because I think the more we know about ourselves, then the more we actually listen to ourselves, the easier it is to navigate those self-doubt moments, to actually be, you know, tell yourself, oh, I'm not good, I can't do this. But then you sit back and like, okay, why can't I do it?
So let me just stop and pick you up on something. So do you think that, you know, like I gave you the example of that one bad comment. Yeah. That's just an example. Lots of people have imposter syndrome in lots of different ways. But it says more about me than the person, doesn't it? That's what you're saying. It says, sorry, about it's inside of me, how I feel about myself and how I think about myself. And it's changing that, isn't it? So that when I do get that negative, I can get over that.
Yeah, because you see, with that negative comment, let's go with that one. So that one negative comment, it sort of overthrows all the positives. And why is that? And it's usually, it is all linked to our self-doubt, our like core values, how we really truly see ourselves and what we feel that we're deserving of. And sometimes it's a lot easier to point the finger, to really sit with like, yeah, I'm definitely not good enough, and to try and reconfirm those thoughts. So that's why we sort of just stick with it, because it touches deeper into our sense of self.
Yeah.
Because the more belief of ourselves that we have, the more that we feed the positive feedback loop into our brains, the narrative that we choose to have. If it's all based on kindness, of speaking to yourself, of reconfirming your successes, to really sit with your accomplishments. If that was our narrative, that one comment, that one negative comment would have been like, oh, that's that person's opinion. Maybe I'll reflect on it and I could perhaps improve on something. I can learn from it. Yeah. But when we don't have that relationship with ourselves, when there isn't that time to foster that relationship, because let's face it, we know how busy we all are as adults, then that becomes our narrative. So that will stick out more to us because it's sort of pointing a big arrow at the things we have underlying that we need to work on.
Yeah. Can I just talk about you for a second?
Yeah, of course.
You said that you had that 3-year gap. So you did your degree. Yeah, you did successful in that.
Yeah.
You achieved and accomplished that. But then you took a role that was a support role, and it took you 3 years before you had the courage to pursue your actual dream. What changed that? What in your life changed? Or what did somebody do, or you say to yourself, or what did you learn to then think, actually, you know what, I want to do this because that will help so many people listening. If you just share that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't mind at all. And it is a bit sort of like in a deeper sense, because I was exposed to like mental health, and I took the time, and it, like I said, because it's within me to be that way. I made a lot of connections with patients, with people that were struggling, and the feedback that they would give me are the simple phrase of, no one has ever heard me the way you do, or I've never felt seen like you have done for me today. That made me question, okay, I'm fearful. I'm scared. I think that I'm a bit of a fraud in mental health. But even if I do feel that way, I am impacting a lot of people. Yeah. So is it a bit of selfishness to sort of safeguard me from perhaps, learning a bit more and supporting other people out there? Is it selfish of me and sort of to, keep myself away from a potential successful career? And I think I started internalizing that a bit and starting to understand myself a bit more and learn that my experiences and what I thought, weren't good enough for me to be a counsellor was indeed what made me the perfect candidate to be that person and to foster that career. And I'll be honest, it's not letting me down. Yeah. However, I will tell you, in my first year of university and my master's, I wanted to quit. Yeah. My tutor was like, no, you're not doing it. And I'm glad I haven't, because we wouldn't be here today, I guess, talking about... Yeah, exactly.
What I find interesting is that you actually... You chose a harder route, I think, actually, because you went into support. So you chose a harder route in quite hard, like prisons, yeah. And but then you've got people that are really affected saying to you, "You've really helped me." So that's reassuring you, isn't it? Yeah. As saying you're not a imposter, actually, you've imposter step, but you're helping me. So that's that reassurance is getting you through, isn't it? So how would we look and foster that reassurance? So would we sort of I'll give you an example, and I wonder if this is something, and you can explain it in a bit technical term, but that negative feedback, then I think, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, I feel terrible. And then I'll be like, might as well just punch myself. And then I think, no, I'm going to walk the dogs. So I'll walk the dogs, walking down, and then I'll think, actually, do you know what? It's not that bad. And I'll break it down and think, do you know what? Sod it. You should get feedback. Just take it on the deal. You still, because all these people are saying they like that. There's just one person that doesn't. So I'm going to, like you said, learn from that. Take on board what they've said, because they've got a voice. They need to be heard, and I need to listen to that voice. And then by the end of the walk, I'm like, okay, so I'm done with now. Yeah. And so how would you put that in technical terms? So because I don't have the technical wording, which you do as a professional.
So you basically allowed yourself to process those thoughts, and without knowing, you reframed that narrative.
Because we can pass that on and recap. So process those thoughts.
Yeah. So processing is just a natural thing that our brain needs to do. And sometimes we really want to not feel negative emotions. Yeah. So we suppress it or just walk away from it. But indeed, emotions are to be felt. Yeah. So feel it in the moment, and that's your ability, your body and your brain to process it in the correct way and in the correct time. Mm-hmm. And you allow that. You felt that emotion. You're like, oh, this is not okay. At the end of the world, right, I'm going to walk the dogs, but I'm still going to think about it. So you allowed your brain to catch up a bit. To process those thoughts. And what helped in that sort of thought process is that you were reframing and reshaping those thoughts. So the initial thought was, this is horrible, I can't do it, I'm not good at it, and that person said I wasn't. But then you were saying, okay, what actually does that mean? Can I not do it? But a lot of people suggest that I can. And actually, if we're taking other people out of it, I show up to it. Yeah. So I did it. Yeah. And people were able to comment because I was doing it. Yeah. So my ability to do it does exist. It's just sometimes it's harder to sit with the fact that we can have those accomplishments than to sort of point the finger at yourself like, no, don't do it, because it's that fear of failing. Yeah. But failing, it's okay. Yeah. It's that opportunity to learn. It's just how we choose to embed that with ourselves, how we choose to see it. Because we can look at failure and be like, oh, there you go, failure, I'm not good. And it's like, okay, failure, but, is there another way I can do it? Yeah. Or what did I do right in this situation that I can take it to next time and build on it? So what you did there, again, was processing and reframing. Reframing is just talking about the subject from a different angle. And I know it's a bit of an odd one, but I think it does help, and it has helped me. And trust me, it's weird, odd. It's talking to yourself in the mirror.
We just, this is so unusual. I don't know if you listened to the last podcast, but we spoke about having that inner person we speak to.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about. This is brilliant.
Yeah, it all does interlink, and imposter syndrome is not like a phenomenon that happens and we can be diagnosed. It's essentially that embedded belief that we're not good enough and we're a failure, and somebody's going to find out at some point that we don't belong here.
Yeah.
But it's all linked to self-talk, negativity. Yeah.
People aren't alone with this, are they?
No.
So many people experience it. So self-belief, that the reaffirming again and saying to ourselves, our inner selves, it's just a one bad day. But if we hang on to that bad day, keep it there, it'll ruin the rest of the week. The rest of the days, the rest of the hours, the rest of the minutes. So we need to box it off, deal with it, process it like yourself. Yeah. So speak to ourselves and move on. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. And, as I was saying like before, I know it can be quite foreign to speak to yourself because you don't technically see yourself. But again, sit in front of the mirror. I know it feels uncomfortable. But look at yourself and tell yourself those things out loud. And you'll see how harder it is to really point the finger at yourself.
Yeah.
Because, and maybe this is touching on something else, but it boils down a bit to fostering that relationship with yourself. I know we have a lot of talks that, relationships matter and how you speak and how you engage, how you communicate. But the most important relationship you'll ever have in your life is the one that you have internally.
Yeah.
And it all sort of interlinks, again, that self-talk, that being kind and fostering that empathy for ourselves. It is a bit hard because we're not taught to do that, I think, from a young age. But it's what we need. We are human beings at the end of the day. And if you had someone by your side telling you you're not good enough, you can't do it, you're no use for this, you wouldn't really foster that relationship for a lot longer. You wouldn't have a life really with that person, or you wouldn't want to anyhow. So why is it okay for us to do that internally?
Yeah.
So I think it always, for me personally, from a personal level, but also from a professional level, it always starts with how we choose to speak to ourselves.
Yes.
Out loud internally, but how we choose the words. They do matter, but they do matter up here too. So it really is a bit of a combination of everything.
I think it just all makes sense, doesn't it? When you think about it, you are responsible for the actions of yourself.
Yeah.
You can ruin your own life or make it great or make it better, can't you?
Yeah.
It's you that's doing it all.
Yeah.
And when you said before about what somebody says to you, I'm thinking, did you ever sit in front of a career officer in 1981 when you said what you wanted to do? They went, get a proper job when you can't do that. Because it was like the words they said. Can you imagine all those people now, what they could have accomplished? If, by just speaking to somebody that they looked up to, I'm supposed to give them advice and then saying that to them, that's what your body's doing, isn't it, in effect? So that they're useful techniques, aren't they? Remembering that to treat yourself right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's other ways in which we can do it. It's sort of just practicing like the mindfulness of things. That could be, just sort of breathing, really grounding yourself.
When you do that, I went...
And, when you do it, it does feel like a bit of a weight relief in your chest.
So can you do that for a second?
Yeah.
Would you do it?
So I would just sit down.
Yeah.
And I tend to close my eyes a bit. And I would just take a deep breath. Yeah, through my nose.
To reset yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes I have to do that a couple of times, I'm not going to lie. But it does make a difference. And I know sometimes it's hard because life is just busy and you've got responsibilities and pressures from every angle. But at the end of the day, you know how people tend to say, it was this thing and that thing and that thing, and now I'm here. I feel broken, or I feel I can't deal with it. And it's an accumulation of things. But the reverse is also true, and allow me to explain. So a small step of change that you can do today, and then tomorrow, and again, that's a build-up of positive steps that you're taking that ultimately will also lead to that change, because things don't happen overnight. And, you know, in a general sense of speaking. And it's, I know as simple as it might sound, it is just about self-discovery, and also just seeking that knowledge and understanding of how it works for you. So that's why I'm a big fan of like journaling and keeping track of how you felt. I mean, you don't have to do it every day, but even if it's once a week or once a month, just a general overview of how you felt, how things have impacted you, that fosters that understanding of you, things that trigger you, you know, how to set those boundaries in place. And that's actually a really good effective tool for imposter syndrome, is sort of setting boundaries, understanding what triggers you, and understanding the steps that you should take to foster that good relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
So,
And also you can write, when you say journaling, you can write down all the good things.
Yeah.
So to remind yourself,
Yeah.
you know, like you could have done, I've got my degree.
Yeah.
My dad are proud of me. This is what I said on this day. And when you don't feel like that you are right, you don't think that you this is the right role, you know, that you're capable of it.
Yeah.
You go back and go, I sat a degree. I did at the 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
3, yeah. So I did 3 years, and then my mum and dad were so pleased with me. And remind yourself of that day. And also, you know, you can go back to and just remind you that you are worthy of it, isn't it? So I just want to recap actually, because we know about I just want to say we understand how the negativity can affect us, and imposter syndrome manifests in people's life, but the triggers that can happen. But I just want to recap for the people listening.
Yeah.
So it's about processing. It is about recapping as well. It's about a journal. It's about felt emotion. It's about reshaping, and it's self-empowerment, really, isn't it? Yeah. And power with it.
Yeah.
That is there anything else you can add to that? Because I cannot tell you how many people say, I would like to do this, but I don't think I can do it. I would like to do that, but I don't think I can, you know, and they have that doubt. Is there any other things and top tips you can share?
I think there's a simple one that might be quite powerful. I know personally it has been for me, and it's changing the can't to how can I.
That's good.
So it's not I can't do it, but how can I do it?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Down. Oh my gosh, these podcasts have really helped me. So so it's how
so it's not I can't, is how can I do it?
Yeah.
And if you allow me to share a personal thing that worked for me.
That'd be great.
I've been driving for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I always thought, I can't change a tire. I can't change my oil. I can't change anything like in my car. I can't do that.
I don't want to. No.
And it has now, because of somebody that close to me has said, why can't you?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, how can I do it? And I can. I have successfully changed my oil in my car, or my filter oil as well, and my brake pads. Done it in my dad's car. I did assist, not fully. But there's things that I said I could never do for, I don't know, I'm showing my age now, but for many years. I said I couldn't do it, and then I changed that. Oh, how can I do it? And it works, and you can apply it to anything. I know it's that cliche of, you know, it's what you set your mind to, and you can achieve it. It really is about that mindset. I'm not saying, you know, that I can fly, but maybe I could in a different way. It's just how do we choose to see that journey to achieve that said goal?
Yeah.
It's how can I rather than I cannot.
Yeah. That's such a good mindset. That's changing that. It's changing your mindset, changing that approach. How can I? I PowerPoint, I suffer with. I go, I can't do PowerPoint. But actually, how could I improve my life by learning about PowerPoint? How could I do that?
Yeah.
And so that's really brilliant advice, I think.
And
And you know, when we talk about, and I think it is about celebrating wins, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we said, journaling.
Yeah.
But I think for this podcast, we've learned so much just in that short time. We've only got like 20 minutes to talk about this. But because it's called Wisdom Talks, do you have any words of wisdom to share with the people listening, and that will help them to get rid of this imposter syndrome, take off that jacket, to evolve and be brilliant and achieve what they want to achieve?
Yeah.
Have you got any words you'd like to share?
I think so. And I think it's something that stuck with me from a young age.
Yeah.
And it was actually a tutor of mine at school that said it to me. And it goes along something like of the lines of, your thoughts are the lenses through which you see the world in. So what does that mean? It's how you choose to think of the situation, of yourself, that will inevitably give you the feedback of what you're seeing. So how you choose to think about yourself, how you choose to think about the world around you will impact how you live, how you behave, and how you choose to carry yourself. So it really is about choosing those kind thoughts so that you can see the world that you're hoping for. Yeah. So I think that's something that's always stuck with me.
I couldn't have put it any better myself. That is fantastic. I think just that one statement will help people realise that it's them that's holding themselves back. It's their mind. It's how they perceive themselves. That's needs changing, isn't it? Thank you. I find this really helpful, and I'm sure the people listening today will do as well.
Thank you.
Libby.
Thank you
for joining us today.